In today's episode, we're going to talk about why the hell the scale fluctuates so much. Why is it always so up and down? Why can't it just be consistent? Today, I'm coming back at you with another Q&A. This is a question that I got from one of my clients recently, and it said, wanted to ask how you manage seeing the weight fluctuations on the scale. It gets a little bit discouraging to see the number go down, then back up slightly. I feel better and look better, but the number on the scale is frustrating. I thought this was a great question, and I thought it was a perfect topic for the podcast because I think it's something that a lot of people go through, myself included. I remember back in 2014, 10 years ago, that makes me feel so old, but I'm not that old. But back in 2014, I was on my first bodybuilding prep. I was pushing to do this show. The show was December 12th, 2014. It was out in SoCal. I was still in the Bay, and I had gotten really fat before I started prep because I had made a couple attempts before then. So I was really on a time crunch. Long story short, I ended up having to lose 60 pounds to be able to get on stage. But during that time, I would be 100% on my diet. I was eating nothing but chicken breast, tilapia, and vegetables for a large portion of that time. In hindsight, maybe not the greatest, but did what I had to do at the time. But no matter how on top of everything I was, there would be days where my weight would go up and it would cause me to freak out. I knew that I was doing what I was supposed to do. I was eating my diet. I was eating exactly what I was supposed to eat. I was training. I was doing my cardio, and I would still see the scale go up. And it was super frustrating. And as a first time, I guess, dieter or competitor, it was my first time seeing this. And in my head, I was expecting, okay, I'm on track with my diet. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do every day. I'm checking all the boxes, and it's going up. Why is it going up sometimes? Maybe the diet's not working. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe we need to make an adjustment. Oh my God, I'm gaining weight. Does that mean I'm gaining fat? Does that mean the diet's all of a sudden too much for me, right? There were so many things that would go through my head. And luckily for me, I had a coach at the time, which allowed me to calm down about it. And I was able to not freak out so much because they were there to tell me this is normal. The fluctuations are normal. But as a first timer, you'd think that my scale is going to go down every single day. But it's important to know all the reasons that the scale might fluctuate. And none of those reasons might have to do with fat gain, right? Because just because the scale goes up, just because you gain weight, doesn't mean that you're gaining fat. There's a lot of different reasons that you could weigh a little bit more day to day. So I'm just going to go over some of the reasons that your scale might fluctuate, but a very easy one would be, what time did you eat your last meal, right? If I had you weigh yourself right now, and let's say you were 150 pounds on the dot, and then I said, okay, go eat this meal, it's 1 pound, and then I said, drink a pound of water, 16 ounces, not that much, right? If you jumped back on the scale immediately, you would be 2 pounds heavier because you just put 2 pounds of stuff in your body. And the longer you let yourself digest without adding more in, so like if you stopped eating and drinking anything and you waited 3 hours and you weighed yourself again, assuming you went to the bathroom, you would weigh a little bit less. And another 3 hours after that, you'd weigh a little bit less. So the time that you eat your last meal, if it's different than normal, that can cause your weight to go up. And then so similarly, if you don't get enough sleep, right? Like sleep is when you're resting, you're digesting, gives you more time to dehydrate throughout the night, assuming you're not drinking water through that. It lets your body recover from the stress of the day. So then you end up letting go of some of that water, peeing in the morning. Lots of stuff happens when you sleep. But the amount of time that you sleep, one, you're recovering from it, but also it's more time to digest and dehydrate and everything, and that's going to cause a lower weigh-in. If you crammed your meals at the end of the day, so if you ate more food at the end of the day, If you're not using the bathroom, this is a huge one. If you normally go to the bathroom, like number two, if you take a shit in the morning, that and that's like your baseline, you do that every morning, and then all of a sudden you don't do it one day, then obviously there's more stuff in your stomach. You're going to weigh a little bit more. And if that keeps happening, then you know that that's a problem, and you have to fine tune something in your diet or your improve your digestion to get things to go. Like if you are constipated, because if you're not going to the bathroom regularly, like, ideally once a day at least, then everything that's going in is not coming back out, which is going to add to the weight. And also, when you are constipated and you're backed up and you're not going, your body will tend to hold on to water. So it's kind of like a double whammy. If you had an abnormally high amount of sodium the day before, or maybe you didn't drink enough water and you're dehydrated. If you had a crazy leg session and your legs are super inflamed, you can feel them. They're puffy. They're tender to the touch. I mean, if you've had a crazy leg day, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Or if you're a woman and it's almost that time of the month, so either like the week before or the week of your menstrual cycle, during those times, it's pretty typical for women to gain, on average, like 2 pounds, right? So that's normal. But out of all the things that I just said, all of those things can make your weight fluctuate based on, basically stomach volume, water retention, and so on. But none of that has to do with eating any more or less food. If you're on a diet and you know that it's working, then it all of a sudden doesn't just stop. It all of a sudden doesn't just stop working and then become a surplus, and all of a sudden you're gaining fat. It just doesn't work like that, right? Like if you're in a deficit and you're losing weight on this specific diet, it can't be a deficit one day and then be a surplus the next day. That's impossible, right? So what it really is just the stomach volume and the water retention. And you just have to be able to keep in mind that in order to gain a pound of fat, right? Because your scale can fluctuate 1, sometimes 2 pounds if everything's going a little crazy. To gain a pound of fat, you have to eat an additional 3,500 calories on top of what is your maintenance calories. So that means, if you're like in a perfect world, if you are losing 1 pound a week, then you are in a 500 calorie deficit per day in a perfect world, right? But that would mean in order for you to gain a pound of fat, you would have to eat your current diet plus 500 calories to bring you back up into maintenance, plus an additional 3,500 calories. So if you're sitting there and you're like, oh my God, I ate an extra piece of bread, I ate a little bit of extra rice, I had an extra tablespoon of peanut butter, obviously that's not ideal. You don't want to be cheating on your diet and eating extra food, but that's also not 3,500 calories. So it's impossible for you to have gained a pound of fat. You might gain some fat if you went overboard and you're doing it consecutively every day or whatever. But to say that a daily fluctuation, just, going up a pound or down a pound, is because you had like a tiny bit extra food, that's very, 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 that's not happening, right? So you also have to keep that in mind. Like from a mathematical perspective, unless you're eating that extra 3,500 calories, which is a lot of food, you're not gaining a pound of fats, which means if it's not 3,500 calories of extra food, that weight is coming from something else, which is typically stomach volume. So like food, undigested food, being backed up, or water retention or blood volume or something of that sort. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that calms you down. Scale fluctuations happen. It's totally normal. The scale is not going to go down every single day. You are going to have days where it goes up and down and up and down. But what you want to look at is big picture things. So if you have an app or you use an Excel sheet or something like that, and it creates a graph for you, you want to see that the weight is trending down over time. You want to see that your highest point during the week and your lowest point of the week are constantly going down. So your weekly average should be on target with what you're trying to do. As long as that is still trending down, then you're fine. If for whatever reason your weight has come to a complete stall, then you probably have to make an adjustment. But just because you're having these day-to-day fluctuations definitely does not mean that you're gaining a bunch of fat. And also, you want to make sure that it doesn't discourage you to see that. Like, everybody loves to see the scale go up and down, but once you know, sorry, everyone doesn't love to see it go up and down. Everyone loves to see the scale go down, but if you know that it's going to go up and down based on all these other factors that are not going to be perfect every single day, then you should try and be a little bit okay understanding that it's going to happen. You might not like it, but just understanding that it's part of the game will hopefully make you feel less discouraged about whether or not you're doing the right thing and whether or not you should keep going. Because at the end of the day, this is a long game. Fitness, it has to be a lifestyle, something that you can see yourself doing for the long run. And if you don't see yourself doing it for the long run, that means at some point you're going to quit. And if you quit, you lose everything that you worked for. So think about it in that way. Understand that daily fluctuations are normal. Find ways to make sure that you don't quit, because even if what you're doing isn't working, you can always make adjustments to it. But if you quit, that's the only way that you fail. Hopefully that was helpful. If you have any other questions like this, feel free to shoot me a message on Instagram. I'd love to, help answer it. And if I think it's a good one, maybe I'll make a podcast episode about it. But if you like the show, if you got some value from it, share it. Give it a 5-star review, I guess. If you're going to give it anything less, don't do it. But hope to see you next time. Thanks for listening.